What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer is now taking its second trip to Houston, Texas. We already covered the Power 4 team in the city. Let's move into the G5 ranks, where the Rice Owls are ready to kick off another season of college football, as they're going to look to get as far as they can up the American ladder with a brand new head coach. My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate, and I want to thank you all so much for not only clicking on this video, but for helping to support the channel in any other way that you do so. I really just do want to thank you. It does mean a lot. If you want to support the channel further, and other than just clicking on the video, subscribe, ring the bell, and ringing the bell is especially important because that way you'll know when I upload videos for the rest of prediction season, and especially once we get into the college football season as well. Now, I am a sports media graduate delving into the professional world of the industry. I do a lot more outside of YouTube. So if you want to see all the cool stuff I get to do while still being up to date what goes on this very YouTube channel, then please give me a follow at TailgateNate29, Twitter, Instagram, and you can feel free to even email me, tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me and the channel in whatever way you may be doing so. And with all that said and done and out of the way, the Rice Owls are up next for 2025 preview and predictions. And again, they have a new head coach in the room this year. It is Scott Abel. Pointing the wrong way. Scott Abel. He is sitting right over here. He is coming over from Davidson in the FCS ranks. Now, nothing crazy while he was at Davidson. They did make 3 straight playoff appearances from 2020, 2021, and in 2022 there as well. So he does have that to hang his hat on. But overall, when you take a look, I mean, it wasn't, spectacular. It wasn't like Matt Entz coming over to coach at Fresno State from North Dakota State. It wasn't like Jimmy Rogers from South Dakota State going over to coach Washington State, or any of the other big moves. Bob Chesney a couple years ago, even one that comes to mind. However, Scott Abel, honestly, interestingly enough, does have a minor league baseball background in a playing standpoint. I think he was in the Royals organization, so that's a really interesting side note about him. But he is, I think, a solid head football coach and can help push this team in the right direction. That's what a lot of fans in Houston going to be hoping for this year. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we do go through a roster overview, offense to the left, defense to the right, and at the end of the video, we will dive on in to the Rice football schedule. I'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. And this video overall is here to tell all of you what I think about the Owls here in 2025. Before we do get started, returning production numbers are right below me. They're from ESPN, and they factor in portal additions up to a certain yet small percentage, and recruiting and transfer portal ranks are right down below that. They're according to 24/7 Sports, and both are the rankings for the class of 2025. Vince Munch is your offensive coordinator as we get started with the Owl offense this season. E.J. Warner went from Owl to Owl, Temple to Rice last season, and while his season at Rice was fairly successful, there was a thing that plagues him that reared its ugly head. I'll tell you what I mean. E.J. Warner, 2,710 yards on 62% completion percentage, 17 touchdowns, but 13 interceptions. The interceptions have really cost E.J. Warner a lot throughout his collegiate career. They reared its ugly head when he was at Temple as well. And they very well could come to light while he's at Fresno State too. So E.J. Warner being able to corral the interceptions, that's a big thing that he's going to want to focus on moving forward. However, as far as its purposes are for Rice, you ignore the interceptions. Of course, we all know who he's related to, right? Kurt Warner. Okay, good. He's a guy with some pretty high upside, and I think you do lose a lot when you lose him at the quarterback position. Now, when you talk about other quarterbacks, well, you got 2 that I think are going to battle it out. And while there are some other names here, especially a transfer that's coming over from Kennesaw State and Lucas Shearhorn, I think these are the main 2 guys, at least for me, that are going to be battling it out for the quarterback position. Drew DeVilliers played a little bit last year, threw 38 passes, and overall, nothing spectacular. Only 137 yards, completed only 20 of them, and 52.6 completion percentage with just 3.6 yards per pass attempt. That's not yards per completion. The yards per completion actually wouldn't even be that great of a number either. So Drew DeVilliers is a guy that doesn't have as much experience as this next guy. It's AJ Paget. And AJ Paget is, and apologies if I am saying either of those two last names wrong. I'm very aware that I definitely could be. He had some good playing time back in 2023, where he threw 117 passes for 721 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Now, not a guy that was going to run a whole lot, did have 2 rushing touchdowns, but that was on 32 attempts and only 14 yards. So, no matter what you get, De Villiers, also a guy that, while he's prone to run a little bit more than what we see out of Warner or uh, Paget. Sorry, this is just a quarterback situation that I'm not in love with either of those two names. However, I do think either of them will be really solid starting quarterbacks, provided they can make the necessary improvements. And they've worked a lot during the spring, summer, and fall camp, which obviously they have been. Been a quarterback battle going on for quite some time. Not quite sure who's in the front running for it right now. But again, as I just said, I think either of the guys would be a solid, maybe not spectacular, but at very least could be a solid stance in this quarterback room. Okay, I rambled about that for way too much, so we're going to go through the skill position room pretty darn fast here. Running back room. Dean Connors transfers in city, but he is going over to the Power 4 program. He is now with the Cougs. So who do you have coming back? Well, your second leading rusher, Quentin Jackson, is going to be back, 275 yards and a touchdown from last season. Along with a couple other returning pieces as well, but some transfers, most notably Max Balthazar, who is going to be coming into this program over from Coastal Carolina, where he had 211 yards and a pair of touchdowns last season for the Chanticleer. So there's your 1-2 punch in the running back room. As far as your pass catching options, well, you do lose a lot. Your top two wideouts, those names I will list off here in just one second. Guy that had nearly 800 yards last year, and Matt Sykes, 782 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then Dean Connors, also going to be leaving this room as well. But Kobe Campbell or I should say Dean Connors was a great piece out of the receiving end as well, coming out of the backfield. But again, you also do lose Kobe Campbell and some other players there as well. Top 3 tight ends. Again, those guys will also be leaving you as well. As far as who you do have in this wide receiver room, I mean, you do see some solid pieces. Braylon Walker is coming back. Okay, that's a nice solid piece. But I'm really intrigued by these two transfers. Aaron Turner, who's coming over from Cincinnati, formerly of UConn, and then Artist Cole, who is over from ULM, is also former Fresno State wide receiver. I think those two are very interesting pieces to watch in the wide receiver room, and I think they can definitely be some good weapons for the Rice offense this year. And then your tight end room, it's going to be led by a guy named Micah Barnett, who is returning as a senior. And really, besides the wide receiver room, not a whole lot of transfers coming into this offense. It's going to be really what you got. Now, I know Max Balthazar, but it's not like this is a running back room that, oh, you lose Dean Connors, let's start the slate clean. I mean, you add Balthazar to provide some depth. Okay, you're going to rely more on what you return in the wide receiver room than what you get in the transfer portal. Okay, offensive line especially is where this comes true. Ethan Onianwa is going to be one of the better offensive linemen in the country over at Ohio State. He is transferred over with the Scarlet and Gray, and you do lose a lot of other losses, whether that's to graduation or to the transfer portal or by other means there as well. This offensive line is going to be very different from what it was a season ago, and there are a lot of massive shoes to fill in that are not going to be easy. Again, not that many transfers. You do get a graduate one, though, in Sean Sullivan from Yale, an Ivy school, that probably going to slot into that left tackle position. You do have a graduate center in David Stickle that I think will provide a good foundation. But otherwise, there's going to be a lot of change. There's going to be a lot different on this Rice offensive line, and there's going to be a lot different with this offense overall. New quarterback, new featured running back, new featured pass catching options, and a pretty much brand new offensive line. That 36% returning production probably could have told you a lot of that as well. So when you're trying to rebuild, and look, I think they got some solid talent here. None of it really blows me away. Like, I don't think they have a star in the quarterback room. I don't think they have a star in the skill position units. However, those two wide receivers, as I said earlier, do intrigue me. And then the offensive line is losing its star power when Ethan Onianwa goes off to Columbus. So this is going to be an interesting offense to sort of watch in the American throughout the season. Let's move on over to the defense. John Kay is your defensive coordinator, and the defense really was pretty good last year. It was a good, solid defense and returns quite a bit of really solid pieces. So if you want something to build off of this Rice team, I think this defense, while I don't foresee it being as good as it was last season, I think it's going to take a little step back. I do not think it's going to take a big enough step back to really harm you. I think it's going to keep you in a lot of football games. And again, when the offense gets everything clicking this year, I think they got enough talent to do some real damage. Let's talk about the talent on the defensive side. Starting out with your defensive line. 3 defensive linemen with at least 3.5, I don't even know if that's at least. I think that is exact. It is exact. 3 defensive linemen with exactly 3.5 sacks last year are gone. The leading one of those, Charlie Lewis, 3.5 sacks and 43 tackles last year. You're also going to be losing your edge rusher and Josh Percy, who was good enough to get to the NFL. He is with the Los Angeles Rams. And you're also going to be losing Michael Larrabee off the defensive line as well. However, you get a guy that had 3 sacks last season, and Michael Daly returned to this team. He'll step up and be that leader on the defensive line this year with really a lot of other returners. Young, old, Michael Daly is going to play that rush position, again, kind of like he did last year, edge rusher type role. He'll absolutely be that again this season with really some pretty solid depth, as well as a transfer that's going to slot into the D tackle position. He's over from Sam Houston State, formerly also of Air Force, and Matthew Aribisala. And hopefully I said that last name correctly. But when you talk about the linebacking room, this is where it really starts to get good on this Rice defense. Your top 3 tackling linebackers are all coming back. That includes your lead tackler from last season overall in the defense in Ty Morris. He was the guy you saw on the thumbnail screen right over here. Ty Morris, albeit he did lead the team in tackles, but this was a team that you can call it a by committee tackle room. Sure, they had 4 guys with at least 50 tackles last year, yet nobody over 60. Ty Morris led with 55 tackles, was also the team leader in sacks, had 4 sacks last year. And overall, a very disruptive piece up front. You're going to get a lot more than him coming back in this linebacking unit, though. Andrew comes back. You're going to get Bo Barton, Blaze Tita. You want to move into the Viper position. You get Play Wyatt, even a transfer in Joe Chavez from Saddleback College. That could be a pretty solid piece. So the linebacking room here at Rice, I think, has a lot of really good pieces. I think Ty Morris can be one of the better defensive players that we see in the American Conference this season. And I think you got a solid group of linebackers here. However, the same cannot be said about your secondary. While you have that good returning piece in the defensive line, while you have that good returning, a lot of good returning pieces, I should say, in both of your front 7 units, your secondary pretty much loses everybody that had a big impact. Okay, I kind of lied to you. They do have 1 returner. Davion Hook is going to be coming back to be that strong safety for him this year. 5th leading tackler, just shy of that 50 tackle club with 49 of them. Defended a couple of passes last year, but you're going to lose some really notable guys, most notably the safety Gabriel Taylor, 2nd leading tackler, had 3 sacks, defended 6 passes, 3 interceptions last season. Couple really good corners are gone, and another safety in Tyson Flowers has transferred over to Virginia Tech. So the new leader is going to be Davion Hook, in my opinion. However, there are some graduate transfers coming in here that could give you a really nice boost. Omari Porter is going to be coming over from Stanford. He had 19 tackles in 2023. He's going to play corner for you. And then Jack Kane is over from Oregon State. And I think this is a really good transfer for this ball club. 2 passes defended, couple of interceptions to go along with 32 tackles out of the safety room last season with the Beavers. So I think that is a really good pickup for this team. A punter is going to be returning here to this team. That is Alex Bachetta. Hopefully I said that last name correctly. But you are going to get a transfer kicker in Chase Allen. That's going to take over that role in the special teams unit. Hey, kickers are people too. You know, we got to show them some love. So overall, when I take a look at this Rice team, again, while there are some pieces to fill in and replace, I think your defense is going to help lead in quite a bit of things this year. While I don't think it's going to be inherently super fantastic, I think you got a lot of nice pieces and already a good scheme from last year that's going to help keep you in a lot of contests. And when the offense can put everything together, again, I don't think it's filled with stars, but I think it can be really solid this season if everything goes well. Albeit in saying all that, it is expected to be a slog of a season for this program. You're breaking in a new head coach, pretty much all new starting offensive pieces, and even the defense, for as much as I've talked about, hey, they can keep you in games, they still do have to replace a lot of talent, and everything I just said there is evident. Well, A, based off the roster that you just saw, but right down there, these FanDuel odds are not too kind to Rice. Plus 7,500 to win the conference. Well, you are in a conference with some of the group of five front runners and the conference that can prove to be a little bit top heavy. But 3.5 is that over under win total. Again, it's just supposed to be a slog of a season here in Houston for this Rice Owl team. And I think it's not going to start off the prettiest either, because you honestly have to play a really, really good group of five team in Louisiana, and I think you're going to end up dropping this one. Oh, by the way, these odds from FanDuel, current as of recording this video, they are subject to change, and I am no betting expert. Don't listen to me for betting advice, and that is not what I am giving here either. Word of warning. All right, so I already told you they're losing to Louisiana. Now let me explain why. It's because they're going to be one of the better teams in the Sun Belt this year. Walker Howard is transferring in. He'll get his first primary starting quarterback role with the Raging Cajuns this season, and I think he's going to do pretty darn well. You have Zylan Perry, you have Bill Davis, two really good running backs that are returning for this team. I like your wide receiver talent, and I like a lot of your defensive talent too, especially Tyree Skipper at safety. This is a Louisiana team coached by Michael DeSormo that can absolutely get back to that Sun Belt championship game, win the thing again this season. Louisiana is going to be a really good team out of the Sun Belt, and for a team that's going to have a struggle of a season, I don't really see them getting by the Raging Cajuns here. So now you get to play your in-city rival at home, and even though it's an in-city rivalry, look, Houston's going to take that next step up this season. Willie Fritz, I think, is pushing this team in a really good direction. Houston has a good, solid transfer quarterback in Connor Wigman, who, again, he's been up and down throughout his collegiate career, but we've seen what he can be at his peak. He gets it all figured out. Houston's going to have a really good quarterback. They have Dean Connors from Rice, who, again, was a really good running back last year, almost 800 yards rushing. He'll provide excellent value with Houston and a defense that will just be able to slow down anything Rice throws their way. Not saying it's fantastic, but Houston does have a pretty solid defense as well as some good portal pieces that are coming in that I think are really going to be able to keep this Owl team at bay. So an 0-2 start already, no need to fear. You are going to get your first win against Prairie View A&M. Just a game that I don't see Rice having a lot of trouble with as an FCS level opponent, and an opponent that is not a very good one out of the FCS realm, even in that regard. So Rice should be able to get their first win there, and you would think that they can get their second win of the year on the road against Charlotte, because Biff Poggy's club has not been that great since he's been there. Charlotte has been one of the worst teams in the American Conference over the past couple of seasons. However, I still am not a big fan of the Charlotte team. I don't think they're going to explode and have a great season or anything like that, but they do bring in a solid transfer portal class. I think they have some good pieces here. I think they see some improvement, and while I still see them as a bottom tier team in the American, I think Charlotte improves while Rice is going to be breaking in a lot of newness, and this is a game that's going to be played on a short week, and you're going on the road. I think that's going to be a loss to the Charlotte 49ers for the Rice Owls, and your dreadful start to the season continues when you lose this game against Navy. This is a Navy team that if you did not have the privilege to watch them last year, which you should have, by the way, you absolutely need to watch them this year. Blake Horvath, number 11 at quarterback, watch him. He is simply sensational. Navy is going to be an excellent team this season, and I think one of the teams that can push Boise State into the group of five race to get into the college football playoff. I think Navy can be that good. I think the defense is going to take a step up from last year. They got a lot of really good rushers that are going to return that had some great production last season. Watch out for Navy, man. The midshipmen are going to be very, very dangerous. I think they beat Rice pretty much with ease here. Now, there are two games here on the schedule. Well, actually three. You can include the Charlotte one in this as well. There are three games here on the schedule that I see as some 50-50 affairs. Florida Atlantic is this next one. The second one on the list against Charlotte is the other one. Just again, because I don't think Charlotte's going to be that great. Florida Atlantic is a team that I could see having a lot of struggles or being really, really successful in year one of Zach Kittley. The high flying passing attack, yep, that's Zach Kittley, and they have the pieces to do it, especially the likes of Caden Veltkamp at quarterback with Easton Messer at wide receiver. That's going to work beautifully. The run game going to take a back seat, and I think Rice has some good pieces in this secondary, especially that safety tandem that can help knock or I should say that won't allow the top to be knocked off that defense as easily as some of the other opponents Florida Atlantic will play. Plus, again, this Rice defense going to keep them in some games. They can slow down Florida Atlantic, and if their offense can click, I think they can come away with a win, and that's exactly what I think happens. Florida Atlantic is going to be going through some growing pains. They're going to be building this year, and it's Zach Kittley's first head coaching job as the youngest head coach in the country. They're going to struggle a little bit as Zach Kittley and this program start to get its footing back. They see some successful moments, but ultimately drop this one to the Rice Owls. Your back half of the season, is really, really tough. This is honestly a really hard schedule for Rice. Now, you do avoid Tulane, but you have to play a lot of other top dogs in the American. Already talked about Navy, UTSA going to be another one of those top dogs. Even though they had a poor season last year compared to program standards, they are going to be back this season up to maybe not their fullest. 10, 11 games might be a bit of a stretch, but Owen McCown's going to take that next step at quarterback. They return some really good pieces in the wide receiver room, especially one who, if he can stay healthy, then he's going to end up being a pretty darn solid piece, right? But even if he can't, Devin McEwen, Willie McCoy, David Amater, all those guys are going to be really, really solid. I'm talking about DeCorian Clark, who actually, now that I'm looking at it, doesn't look like he is on the active roster. So maybe we table the DeCorian Clark conversation. Even in my UTSA video, I think I was pretty careful with that because, again, you just never knew. But UTSA is still going to be really good. They got a solid offense even without DeCorian Clark. They got some really nice defensive pieces. Rice is going to be, or I say UTSA. No, Rice is going to be no match for UTSA. Had to figure out which way that saying went for a second. And the same is going to be true about these next couple of games. Even though they're home games, I'd really watch out for UConn, man. This is a UConn team that's going to be really dangerous this season. A lot of people are just immediately going to write them off because, oh, it's UConn. It doesn't matter. They're not going to be that great. UConn's going to be a good team this year, and they did really well in the transfer portal if they can get everything to fit in together and click. I really like what Jim Mora has done. What a great story in the collegiate football landscape as UConn continues to build up here. They'll be a good team. They will beat Rice, and so will Memphis. Even though the Tigers lost just about everybody who gave them solid production last season, including a really, really good quarterback in Seth Hennigan, who, of course, has since graduated, moved on, no more collegiate eligibility for him. Memphis has some pieces transferring out, so on and so forth. There are some good pieces transferring in. The foundation that has been set by Ryan Silverfield is one of the best in the American. The standards here are high, and I think they still got a lot of good talent. Memphis has some success, and they do win that game against Rice. So here is your third and final 50-50 game. It comes against UAB. Now, the reason I call this a 50-50 game is, again, much like the Charlotte one, I don't think UAB is going to be that great this year. However, it being said, I could see them making some level of improvement this year. I think that's absolutely possible, but I was not a fan of Trent Dilfer when he signed that head coaching deal, and I'm still not a massive fan. While I think some of the pieces on this roster are good, overall, the team can see some improvement. I still don't think it leads to the amount of success that I think Blazer fans are going to want, and I think they even get a pretty disappointing loss here against the Rice Owls. So that's going to be a loss there for UAB. And a win for Rice. However, I think that third win is going to be their final one of the season because North Texas, potential sleeper in the American. I say potential, right? This is a Mean Green team that does lose Chandler Morris, does lose some other really exciting pieces, especially some of your wide receiver options from last year. However, North Texas does have some really nice pieces. This pass-heavy offense, I think, is going to be perfect for a guy that they brought in, whose name is escaping my mind. I will remember it here in just 1 second. Reese Poffenbarger. That's who I was going to say, but I wanted to make sure that I was right. He's transferring over from Miami, but was a really, really good quarterback over at Albany. So and was a high-flying quarterback there. So North Texas is going to be really dangerous. Same thing with South Florida. They got one of the best quarterbacks in the G5 ranks in Bowen Byram. The kid is going to be a stud this year, and South Florida is also growing in a nice direction with Alex Golish at the helm. So 3-9 is what I got for Rice this year. And again, you include losses in those two 50-50 games to Florida Atlantic and UAB. One win, I think, is the floor for this team. Now, maybe they can lose to Prairie View and they really struggle this year. I just don't really see that happening. But I overall do not see this being a great year for Rice. I think they just lost too much, and there is so much change ongoing with this program. I think they're really going to struggle. Now, is it possible that Abel can absolutely take this team forward? Yeah, there's a good possibility that this is the Rice team that just needs a couple years to really formulate this system and grow. And then I think Scott Abel is going to do a fine job. But at least as of right now, I don't have a lot of faith in the program. I think it's going to be a struggle right now as they build upwards and replace some of the talent that they lost last year. Defense is a good starting foundation, but overall they will struggle. Let me know what you think about the Owls, though, in the comment section below. And remember to play hard but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.